we're here to talk about capturing customer data and adding value to the bottom line. But I'd like to argue that, and you've seen this a lot today when we talk about how do you do segmentation, how do you do, regression models, how do you find cohort analysis. We have as much data as we can kind of deal with. But fundamentally, how do we choose what to use and when is really the problem. And so I'd like to talk about how we deliver customer value instead of just capturing more and more and more data, and really thinking about the outcome that we're going for. And there were two companies back in quite a long time ago that also had this problem. And so some of you who are old enough will remember using this website. And some of you who are a little bit younger may have used this website. And both of them had a lot of data, like all of the search market share. And they captured the same data. So, when you're thinking about the access to data, we've all got access basically to the same amount of data and to, enough that we should be able to sort of, quote unquote, win. And so what is it that Google did differently? Did they have more data? Absolutely not. Not even close. AltaVista through Yahoo and Overture had 60% of the global market share. So what is it Google were doing differently? Let's talk about capturing data. They were thinking fundamentally about the customer behavior and their PageRank algorithm and the links back to the site, so recommendation authority. And that was really the technical way that they were imagining they would get to evaluating the outcome. And this is where it gets interesting, because this is where they were saying, what is it will show me that I'm getting where it needs to go? While customers will not go to page 3 or page 4 or click through to 17 different link farms. They will just go to the top result. If it's working for you, I will only ever go to page 1. Actually, I won't even scroll down. And so that's what they realized should be their metric. And if you notice that doesn't include compensation. They'd worked that out separately. They wanted to make sure that the customers were number 1. And so they did that by fundamentally having the most relevant, most prominent, popular sites. And that's really what sort of AltaVista kind of missed, even though they had access to all the same and a lot more data. So we think of this as a loop. Fundamentally, you capture all the data. Of course you do. That's what we all do. That's what we're here to talk about. But you've got to evaluate the outcome. And we all want to be able to evaluate the outcome at a customer level of detail. If I could tie it down to the individual customer, then of course I could do personalization. But you can't always do that. So sometimes you've got to work out what your proxy for is it working actually is. And then you can adapt the experience, continue to manage to capture more data, and then say, OK, well, is that improving the outcome that I was expecting? And I think I really like what Gurmeet was saying earlier. He was talking about, well, there's personalization in terms of AI, and there's just fundamental test and learn. And I think this approach works with exactly the same thinking in terms of trying to improve the whole experience requires both machine learning and A/B testing, but the human element is to evaluate whether or not you are getting the right outcome for the customer. And I mean, we really think of this in terms of every interaction improves the experience for that customer or the next. And you have to be absolutely brutal about making sure that that is what you're doing. So, I mean, we do this at Expedia. We do this with our sort order. We do this with pin density. How many hotels should we show you so it's not overwhelming? What does the clustering do? How close to being individual about how many pins we show can we get to each customer? The photos. If you filter by pools on Expedia, it will show you more photos of pools, because that's what you've told us you want. And of course, reviews, because we all know everybody needs reviews before they book. So I'd like to sort of take you into an offline experience more closer to my heart, more of an anecdote than really what I think everybody in this room should be thinking about, but something where if you're not always dealing with the amount of data that some companies have the luxury towards, you might think about. So I'd like to take you to something we've all done in the last 48 hours, checking in. And of course, it always looks like this. We've all come from all over the place to get here. And then, actually, that's all you really wanted to do. You just wanted to get to your room. And for the sharp-eyed of you, that's obviously not Vegas. We don't have a mini St. Paul's. So, unfortunately, this is what check-in more often than not looks like. And this is not Expedia data, but if guests wait more than 5 minutes to check in, it roughly halves their review score. So are you focusing on the right thing, to get the right outcome? Is it for the customer, going back to delivering that customer value? Because you can gather all the data in the world, but if you can't get your review score up, then it's just going to look like that every time. And that really hurts to look at. It doesn't even hurt. We come back to delivering customer value to add value to your bottom line. Customers will pay 11% more for hotels when the review score is 1 star or better. Again, not Expedia data, this is from review trackers, but we see similar trends. We know that customers will book more or pay more for hotels that have a better review. It's obvious. We all do the same thing every day. So what data would you capture to make sure every customer gets their room faster? And what is the outcome you're going to go for? So how would you tie your review score to how long it takes to check in, by example? Would that be the outcome you were trying to drive? Because all the hotels are already adapting the experiences a million different ways. But to know that it's working, you need to be capturing the right data to evaluate the right outcome. And that, for me, is fundamentally how you deliver customer value to add value to the bottom line.